High Minister Zixtal's crystalline appendages trembled as the emergency alarms shattered 50 millennia of uninterrupted protocol. The Genesis Council Chamber, a vast amphitheater carved from a living asteroid, erupted in a cacophony of alien languages as representatives from 300 spacefaring civilizations confronted something unprecedented. Fear. Impossible, whispered Zixtal, his translators struggling to convey the concept in the 100 most common galactic languages. The defensive grid cannot be breached. But the massive holographic display dominating the chamber told a different story. A ship of unknown configuration had just appeared in the heart of Council space, bypassing defensive measures that had withstood the tests of millions of years. Its design violated every principle of approved starship architecture. All harsh angles and exposed weapon systems where there should have been elegant curves and hidden armaments. The vessel was unmistakably human. The quarantine was absolute, hissed Grand Arbiter Kex of the Silicum consciousness, their quantum crystalline form flickering with agitation. Their system was surrounded by temporal anchors. They couldn't have developed faster than light travel for at least another 1,000 years. Before any of the council members could respond, a new alert screamed through the chamber. The human vessel had launched a shuttle. Tracking systems showed it heading directly for the council's docking bay. Activate the defense screens, ordered Zixtal, his crystalline form resonating with authority. Summon the Guardian fleet. The defense screens are active. Excellency, reported a nervous technician of the void swimmer species, their tentacles writhing in confusion. The shuttle. It's passing through them, as if they don't exist. The chamber descended into chaos. The Hive Consortium representatives buzzed in agitation, their wing cases clicking rapid-fire threat displays. The Energy Collective's ambassadors flared in patterns of ultraviolet distress. Even the normally unflappable quantum scholars began probability splitting in anxiety, their forms dividing and recombining as they calculated potential outcomes. Then she walked in. Dr. Jessica Martinez strode into the Genesis Council chamber as if she'd been doing it all her life. Her dark blue diplomatic uniform, adorned with a single silver Earth insignia, seemed almost austere compared to the Baroque biomechanical fashion of the Council species. She moved with the confidence of someone who knew exactly how impossible her presence was, and didn't care. Honorable representatives of the Genesis Council, she announced, her voice clear and carrying. No translator was needed. She spoke perfect High Council common. I bring greetings from Earth. Zixtal's ceremonial staff, a symbol of authority since the founding of the Council, slipped from his grasp and clattered to the floor. The sound echoed through the suddenly silent chamber. How, he began, then corrected himself, drawing upon millennia of diplomatic training. Ambassador, your presence here violates 17 fundamental council protocols, including the quarantine of pre-FTL civilizations, the mandatory technological development pathway, and the prohibited zones of council space. Martinez smiled. Those protocols assumed we wouldn't notice we were being watched. They assumed we wouldn't find the ruins of ancient ships in our asteroid belt. They assumed we would follow the same plodding path to the stars that every other species has taken. She reached into her uniform and withdrew a small device. The chamber's security systems didn't even register its existence. But you know what humans do really well. Martinez activated the device, and suddenly the holographic display showed hundreds of human ships decloaking throughout council space. We innovate. We adapt. And most importantly, her smile turned serious. We recognize when we're being caged. The Genesis Council, for the first time in its history, was speechless. Humanity had not only arrived at their doorstep, they had already moved into the neighborhood. And nothing would ever be the same. The Council's emergency session stretched into its 4th hour as evidence of humanity's capabilities mounted on the holographic displays. Each new revelation sent fresh waves of distress through the assembled representatives. This cannot be correct. Grand Arbiter Kex's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. The humans have achieved in decades what took our civilizations millennia to discover. Dr. Martinez stood calmly at the center of the chamber, her posture relaxed as she manipulated a holographic interface that shouldn't have been compatible with council technology. Perhaps I should show you what else we've been up to while you thought we were busy with our primitive space program. The chamber's display shifted, showing a massive orbital structure around Jupiter. This is the Phoenix Array, Martinez explained. While your observation posts watched our public space stations, we built this. It's a quantum fold drive manufacturing facility. Zixtal's crystalline appendages clinked together in agitation. Impossible. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical using your methods, Martinez interrupted. But we found a better way. You see, your civilizations all followed the same technological path, building upon each other's discoveries. Humanity. She smiled. We started fresh, asked different questions, found different answers. The display shifted again, showing a human warship passing through an asteroid, as if it were mist. The council chamber erupted in pandemonium. Phase shift technology is a theoretical impossibility, shouted a representative of the quantum scholars, their probability splits becoming erratic with distress. The power requirements are minimal when you approach the problem sideways, Martinez countered. Your scientists asked, how do we generate enough power to force our way through matter? We asked, what if we temporarily removed our ship from this dimension instead? The Hive Consortium's representatives began emitting rapid-fire pheromones of alarm. Their translators struggled to keep up. The humans are too dangerous, too unpredictable. They must be contained before. Before what? Martinez's voice carried an edge now. Before we share our innovations with others. Before we prove that your perfect technological development path isn't the only way forward. She gestured again, and the display showed something that made even the energy collective dims their luminescence in shock. A human vessel seemingly vanishing from existence itself. Total quantum displacement, Martinez explained. Not just invisibility, not just stealth. Complete removal from observable reality. We've had ships watching your worlds for years. Learning. Understanding. Preparing. Preparing for what? Zixtal demanded. Martinez's expression turned grave. For the day we'd need to prove ourselves to you. For the day we'd need to show you that humanity isn't just another species to be shepherded along your predetermined path. She turned to address the entire chamber. Your civilizations have achieved incredible things. You've built wonders that have lasted millions of years. But you've also stagnated. You've forgotten how to question, how to innovate, how to think beyond the boundaries you've set for yourselves. The display changed one final time, showing the Earth fleet's true numbers. Hidden ships appeared around every major council world, every strategic location, every supposedly secure facility. We could have struck at any time, Martinez said softly. We could have used our phase shift technology to bypass your defenses, our quantum displacement to hide our approach, our advanced weapons too. She let the implication hang in the air. But we didn't, because humanity doesn't want dominion over the galaxy. We want partnership, cooperation, exchange of ideas. She stood straighter, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. The question isn't whether humanity is ready to join the galactic community. The question is whether the galactic community is ready for humanity. The silence that followed was deafening. 300 species, representing billions of years of combined civilization, faced a moment of truth. Adapt to this new paradigm, or risk becoming obsolete. And in the shadows of the chamber, watching unobserved, certain council members began to smile. Perhaps humanity was exactly what they had been waiting for. The Genesis Council's private chamber was considerably smaller than the main hall, but its dangers were far more concentrated. Dr. Martinez sat at a massive table of living crystal, facing the council's inner circle. Behind her, a diplomatic team from Earth waited silently. Your claims are impressive, purred Ambassador Clara of the Stellar Concordat, their feathered mane rippling with iridescent colors. But surely you understand our need for verification. A simple examination of your ship's propulsion system would give you direct access to our technology. Martinez finished. Just as your ceremonial escort fleet that's currently moving into position around Earth is merely for verification purposes. The chamber temperature dropped several degrees. The inner circle members exchanged glances, their various biological and mechanical expressions unreadable to most, but not to Martinez. "You're monitoring that situation," stated High Minister Zixtal. "Not a question. Just as we're monitoring the antimatter warheads your hardliners are preparing to load onto their ships." Martinez's smile never wavered. "The ones masked as diplomatic vessels, currently approaching Mars." Councillor Vicstrix of the Silicon Consciousness slammed their crystalline appendage against the table. "This is outrageous. How dare you accuse?" The chamber plunged into darkness. When the lights returned a second later, the Earth delegation stood transformed. Their diplomatic attire had shifted into sleek combat suits, weapons materialized in their hands. Martinez's own form flickered, quantum patterns dancing across her skin. "We came in peace," she said, her voice carrying an artificial undertone that hadn't been there before. "We chose diplomacy. But make no mistake, we came prepared." "What? What are you?" whispered Kilera, feathers flattened in shock. "Insurance." Martinez's form flickered again. "Did you think we'd send our actual ambassador into a potential trap? I'm a quantum-entangled consciousness in a biosynthetic avatar. The real Dr. Martinez is safely on Earth, experiencing everything through me. Kill this form, and you just prove we were right not to trust you." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. The holographic displays showed hundreds of human warships dropping their quantum displacement fields, appearing around every council vessel that had been secretly dispatched to Earth. "Your containment fleet is now surrounded," Martine stated calmly. "Your antimatter warheads have been quantum shifted into an alternate dimension, and your attempts to upload viruses into our systems during this meeting have given us access to your entire defense network." "Impossible." Vicstrix's crystal form vibrated in rage. "Our systems are impenetrable. To traditional attacks, yes, but you never considered that someone might encode a cyber weapon into the quantum fluctuations of their own consciousness." Martinez gestured, and every secure display in the chamber began showing classified council data. "We didn't want this. We genuinely came to establish peaceful contact." High Minister Zixtal raised his appendages in a gesture of conciliation. "Perhaps we have been overly cautious." "Overly cautious." Martinez laughed, the sound carrying both amusement and warning. "You were preparing to sterilize our solar system, rather than accept that humanity might have found different paths to the stars. Your caution has become fear, and your fear nearly led to genocide." She stood, her avatar's form solidifying. "Here's what happens next. Your fleet withdraws. All of it. The Council acknowledges humanity's sovereignty and our right to develop technologies without oversight. In return, we share some of our innovations, carefully, gradually, to those who prove themselves trustworthy." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, Kilera spoke, their feathers slowly rising. "And if we refuse?" Every human avatar in the room smiled simultaneously. "Then we upload the location of every council black site, every secret research facility, and every hidden weapon to the public networks of all 300 member species. I wonder how they'll react to learning how many laws their leaders have broken in the name of security." The inner circle had existed for millions of years. They had faced wars, natural disasters, and cosmic horrors. But they had never faced anything like humanity, a species that had not only matched their power, but had done so in ways they couldn't even understand. The age of unchallenged council authority was over. The Genesis Council's emergency session reconvened with considerably less grandeur than before. The inner circle's private chambers had been abandoned for a neutral conference room aboard humanity's flagship, the ESS Prometheus. Dr. Martinez's avatar sat at one end of a simple metal table, facing the humbled council representatives. Now that we've established mutual understanding, Martinez began, her holographic displays materializing above the table. Let's discuss why we really revealed ourselves. More threats. Vextrix muttered, their crystalline forms still vibrating with barely contained rage. No, Martinez's expression turned grave. A warning. She gestured, and the displays showed something that made even the most composed council members recoil. This is happening at the edge of your space, though your sensors can't detect it yet. The hologram showed a star system, or rather, what remained of one. Reality itself seemed to be unraveling around the edges, space-time twisting in ways that defied comprehension. Impossible, Calera whispered, their feathers drooping. Our monitoring systems would have. Your monitoring systems are calibrated to watch for known threats, Martinez interrupted. This is something new, or rather, something very, very old. She expanded the display, showing similar anomalies appearing across the galaxy. We detected the first signs 3 years ago. Your scientists dismissed the data as sensor malfunctions because it didn't fit any known patterns. But humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our willingness to believe in the impossible. High Minister Zixtal leaned forward, his crystalline appendages trembling slightly. What are we seeing? The end, Martinez stated simply. A cascade failure in the fundamental forces holding reality together. Your civilizations have been using the same forms of FTL travel, the same energy systems, the same basic technologies for millions of years. You've worn grooves in space-time itself, created patterns that something out there has learned to exploit. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Our quantum fold drive, Martinez continued. Our phase shift technology, our seemingly impossible innovations, they weren't just about advancement. They were about survival. Humanity had to develop alternative technologies because we somehow knew, instinctively perhaps, that following your path would only hasten the end. She stood, her avatar flickering with barely contained energy. We need each other. You have millions of years of scientific knowledge, resources beyond imagination, and a unified galactic civilization. We have innovation, adaptability, and most importantly, a completely different way of looking at the universe. And if we refuse this partnership, Vextrix challenged, though with notably less hostility than before. Martinez's response was calm but resolute. Then you'll watch your civilization unravel, one system at a time, as the patterns you've carved into space-time become your undoing. Humanity might survive longer, using our alternative technologies, but eventually we'd fall too. Together, though. She activated a new hologram, showing theoretical models of human and council technologies working in concert. Together, we might have a chance. Your stability combined with our chaos. Your experience with our innovation. Your resources with our creativity. You're asking us to abandon millions of years of tested protocols, Clara observed, their feathers slowly rising in what might have been interest. I'm asking you to evolve, Martinez corrected. To remember what it was like when your species were young and still dared to dream impossible dreams. To trust that sometimes the most dangerous path is refusing to change at all. The council members exchanged looks, their various biological and mechanical expressions showing a mix of fear, uncertainty, and perhaps hope. Time is running out, Martinez concluded. The patterns are spreading faster than our models predicted. We need your answer. Will you work with us to save everything? Or will you cling to your traditions as reality itself dissolves around you? The fate of every civilization in the galaxy hung in the balance, and for the first time in millions of years, the Genesis Council faced a decision that no protocol could guide them through. Sometimes survival meant learning to see the universe through new eyes, even if those eyes belonged to a species they had dismissed as primitive mere hours ago. The great halls of the Nexus Collective's primary hub station thrummed with energy as representatives from 30 younger species gathered in defiance of Council orders. Holographic displays showed the spreading anomalies that Dr. Martinez had revealed, alongside new data that made the Council's eldest members shudder. "The ancient races call this reckless," announced Sirac of the Nexus Collective, his biomechanical form pulsing with determination. "They say working with humans will destabilize million-year-old powers. I say stability is what brought us to this crisis." On the central platform, Martinez's avatar stood beside him, watching as the Eternal Fleet, the Council's supreme military force, moved into attack formations near the hub station. The display showed their massive capital ships, each one a city-sized monument to unchanging tradition. "They're still not firing," Martinez observed, checking quantum readings. "Interesting." Sirac's sensors whirred. "They're waiting for something." "Someone," Martinez corrected, just as new vessels began appearing around the Eternal Fleet. The chamber erupted in shock as ships bearing the markings of the Silicon Consciousness and 3 other ancient races dropped their cloaking fields. But they weren't facing the hub station. They were facing the Eternal Fleet. "The Council has fractured," announced a new voice, as Ambassador Calera's hologram materialized in the chamber. Their feathers shimmered with previously unseen patterns. "Some of us have known about humanity's potential for centuries. We've been preparing for this moment." Martinez's avatar smiled. "I wondered when you'd reveal yourselves. Did you think you were the only ones watching Earth?" Calera's holographic form rippled with amusement. "While the Council argued about containment, some of us saw opportunity. We recognized the patterns of entropy in our own systems centuries ago. We knew we needed chaos, innovation, humanity." The displays shifted, showing hundreds of hybrid vessels, Council ships modified with human technology, decloaking throughout the sector. The Eternal Fleet commanders, faced with opposition from their own kind, held their fire. "But the threat," Sirac interjected, "the reality distortions, are accelerating faster than even humans predicted." Calera confirmed. "Our scientists have confirmed Dr. Martinez's data. The universe isn't just unraveling. It's actively rejecting the patterns we've carved into it over millions of years." Martinez's avatar stepped forward, addressing the gathered species. "This is why we revealed ourselves now, not to challenge the Council's authority, but because we needed allies who could see beyond tradition. The younger races who still remember what it's like to dream. The hidden progressives among the ancients who never stopped questioning." New data streamed across the displays, classified Council records showing similar reality distortions from millions of years ago. Evidence that the ancients had faced this threat before and had chosen to hide rather than adapt. The Council didn't achieve stability, Calera revealed, their holograms showing ancient battle footage. They achieved stagnation. When the universe itself began rejecting their patterns, they retreated into smaller regions of space, surrendering entire sectors to entropy rather than risk change. The chamber erupted in outrage. Younger species who had fought for centuries to earn Council membership now faced the truth. They had been fighting to join a dying system. "We offer a different path," Martinez declared. "Not human dominance, not Council stability, but true collaboration. Our chaos tempered by your wisdom, your power enhanced by our innovation." Sirac raised his mechanical appendages. "The Nexus Collective stands with Earth." One by one, representatives of the younger races declared their allegiance. The Silicon Consciousness and their ancient allies pledged their support. The hub station's displays showed more ships arriving every moment. A new coalition forged from the courage to change. In high orbit around distant Earth, the real Dr. Martinez watched the proceedings through her avatar's quantum link. She turned to her staff, her expression grave but determined. "And now," she said softly, "the real work begins. Because what we haven't told them yet is that we're not just fighting entropy. On her private display, a signal pulsed from deep space, a pattern that suggested purpose behind the chaos. Something was coming. Something that had seen this all before. The ESS Prometheus's command center had become a war room. Dr. Martinez, the real one this time, stood before representatives of the new coalition, her expression grim as she revealed humanity's darkest discovery. "We called them technological parasites," she began, activating a hologram that showed microscopic machines devouring energy patterns. But that wasn't accurate. They're not parasites. They're antibodies. The hologram expanded, showing the spreading reality distortions in a new light. What had appeared as chaos now revealed an underlying pattern, a deliberate immune response on a cosmic scale. "The universe itself is rejecting us," Clara whispered, their feathers lying flat against their body. "But why now? Our civilizations have been following the same technological paths for millions of years," Martinez finished, "creating the same energy patterns, the same quantum signatures, the same holes in reality. We thought we were building a stable civilization. Instead, we were triggering an immune response. Sirek's biomechanical form whirred in distress. But human technology doesn't trigger the response because it's fundamentally different." Martinez brought up new data streams. "Our quantum fold drive doesn't tear space. It persuades it to reshape itself. Our phase shift technology doesn't force matter apart. It asks reality to briefly look the other way." "You speak as if the universe were alive," observed one of the Silicon consciousness representatives. Martinez's expression was deadly serious. "Not alive. Infected. Look at this." She activated a quantum scan of nearby space. "These patterns aren't random. They're engineered. Someone, or something, programmed the universe itself to reject certain types of technological development." The chamber erupted in discussion as the implications sank in. Millions of years of council civilization had been developing along paths that were designed to fail. "The precursors," Clara breathed. "We thought they vanished. But they didn't, did they? They became something else." "We found their ruins on Mars," Martinez confirmed. "Not their cities or their ships, their research facilities. They were studying the same phenomenon. But instead of finding a solution, they chose to transcend physical form entirely. They became living equations, quantum patterns woven into the fabric of reality." She brought up an ancient star chart, overlaid with current reality distortions. "They wrote themselves into the universe's source code, creating antibodies to prevent other civilizations from following their path. But they made one crucial mistake. They didn't account for humanity," Sirach concluded. Martinez nodded. "They designed their antibodies to recognize and attack specific technological patterns. But humans," she smiled grimly, "we're technological chaos. We try things that shouldn't work. We build things that violate their fundamental laws. We're not just immune to their antibodies, we're invisible to them." "That's why they guided your evolution," Clara realized. "The progressive ancient races didn't discover Earth by accident. The precursors wanted us to find you. Because we're not just a solution." Martinez's voice carried through the silent chamber. "We're a vaccine. Our technological approach, merged with your established sciences, might be able to rewrite the universe's immune response. But we have to act fast." New alerts flashed across the displays. The reality distortions were accelerating, consuming entire star systems at the edges of council space. But now, they could see the pattern. They weren't random attacks. They were a controlled burn, quarantining infected sectors of space. "The precursors aren't gone," Martinez declared. "They're awakening. And they've decided that the only way to save the universe from technological infection is to cauterize every civilization that follows their old paths." She faced the assembled representatives, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's determination. "We have a choice. We can run, hide, and watch as they sterilize galaxy after galaxy. Or we can fight back, not with weapons, but with innovation, We can prove that technology doesn't have to be a parasite. That civilization doesn't have to follow their predetermined paths. The chamber was silent as the coalition faced its moment of truth. They had united to save reality itself, only to discover they were fighting the architects of that reality. And somewhere in the quantum fabric of space-time, ancient equations began to stir, sensing a new pattern they had never encountered before. Hope. The joint fleet emerged from quantum fold space at the galaxy's core, an unprecedented assemblage of vessels that represented both the height of council technology and human innovation. At its heart, the ESS Prometheus led the charge, its hybrid systems pulsing with energies that defied conventional physics. Dr. Martinez stood on the bridge, surrounded by holographic displays showing the impossible. A massive structure of pure mathematics, equations made manifest in reality itself. The precursor control system. Beautiful, Calera whispered from their position beside her. And terrible. Status report. Martines commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of trillions of lives depending on their success. Reality distortions approaching critical levels in the outer sectors. Cyrac reported from his biomechanical interface. The precursor antibodies are consuming everything in their path. 47 systems lost in the last hour alone. The displays showed the horrifying truth. The universe's immune response was accelerating, methodically erasing civilizations that followed the infected technological patterns. Only the hybrid ships of their fleet, combining human chaos theory with council precision, remained undetected. They're watching us, Martinez observed, noting quantum fluctuations in the mathematical structure before them. The precursors. They've been waiting. As if in response, space itself began to warp. Numbers and equations materialized around the fleet, forming into shapes that hurt the mind to observe. The precursors had revealed themselves. Beings of pure mathematical thought, ascending beyond physical form. Aberration. The message came not in words, but in pure concepts, searing itself into the minds of every crew member. You bring chaos to order. Martinez stepped forward, interfacing directly with the quantum communications array. We bring evolution to stagnation, she corrected. Your solution was elegant but flawed. You tried to preserve the universe by forcing it into predetermined patterns. The patterns are purifacted, the precursors responded. All other paths lead to entropy. Entropy isn't death, Martinez argued, as the hybrid fleet moved into position. It's change. Look at what we've achieved by embracing chaos theory, by combining technologies in ways you never imagined. The fleet demonstrated, their ships performing maneuvers that should have torn reality apart. Instead, they moved in harmony with space-time itself, their human-designed systems working in concert with council technology to create something entirely new. Impossible, the precursors declared, but there was something new in their mathematical voice. Uncertainty. Nothing is impossible. Martines pressed their advantage. That's humanity's greatest lesson. We tried things your equations said couldn't work. We built technologies your models said would fail. And we succeeded because we weren't bound by the limitations of perfect order. The mathematical structure pulsed, its equations shifting as the precursors processed this new data. Around them, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. You created antibodies to preserve the universe, Martines continued, but you're killing it instead. A universe of perfect order is a universe without growth, without evolution, without life itself. She transmitted the hybrid fleet's quantum signatures, proof that chaos and order could coexist, that technology could evolve beyond the precursor's ancient patterns. We offer a third option, she declared. Not perfect order, not pure chaos, but controlled evolution. Let us show you how to rewrite the universe's immune response. Let us prove that civilization can advance without following your paths. The mathematical structure trembled. Throughout the galaxy, the reality distortions paused in their advance. The precursors were considering. And if you're wrong, Clara whispered. "If they reject our proposal." Martinez's expression was grim but determined. "Then we execute Plan Omega. We use the hybrid fleet to disperse human chaos theory throughout the galaxy's core. We force evolution on a cosmic scale. That could destroy everything," Cyrac warned. "Everything is already being destroyed," Martines countered. "At least our way has a chance of creating something new." The mathematical structure began to pulse with new patterns. The precursors had made their decision. The next few moments would determine the fate not just of their civilizations, but of reality itself. And humanity, the cosmic aberration, waited to learn if their chaos would save the universe or unmake it entirely. The mathematical structure at the galaxy's core pulsed with colors that had no names, equations that rewrote reality with every iteration. Dr. Martinez stood unwavering as the precursors made their choice, their ancient consciousness processing the impossible data before them. Paradox, they announced finally, their mathematical voice resonating through every ship in the fleet. Your CHAOs, creates order. Life itself is a paradox, Martines responded, her hands dancing across the quantum interface. The more you try to contain it, the more it resists. The more you embrace its chaos, the more patterns emerge naturally. The hybrid fleet's sensors detected something unprecedented. The precursors were changing. Their rigid mathematical structures began incorporating elements of uncertainty, quantum fluctuations that mirrored human chaos theory. "Show them," Martinez commanded. Every ship in the fleet activated their hybrid drives simultaneously. Council technology provided the framework. Human innovation supplied the spark, and something entirely new emerged. The fabric of space-time rippled, but instead of tearing, it began to dance. Understanding, HFY, the precursors declared. Their vast mathematical consciousness began to reform, incorporating the principles they had witnessed. The MUNIRESPONENSETANVE evolved. Calera's feathers shimmered with hope. They're accepting the change. Better, Martinez smiled, watching the displays. They're embracing it. Across the galaxy, the reality distortions transformed. What had been a destructive force became a wave of transformation. The precursors' antibodies, reprogrammed with human chaos theory, no longer sought to destroy technological civilization. They began to nurture it. "The pattern is changing," Cyrac reported, his biomechanical sensors struggling to process the data. "They're not just stopping the destruction, they're creating something new." Martinez nodded, watching as the mathematical structure of the universe itself began to incorporate elements of controlled chaos. They're writing new laws of physics, laws that encourage innovation instead of stagnation, laws that reward creativity instead of conformity. The displays showed the effects rippling across space. Council worlds that had been dying under the weight of their own technological patterns began to flourish again. The rigid structure of space-time around their ancient installations softened, allowing for new forms of energy and matter to emerge. HFY, the precursors announced. Human chaos plus council order equals any creation. The mathematical structure pulsed one final time, and the precursors began to fade. But they weren't disappearing. They were dispersing throughout the galaxy, becoming part of the new framework they had helped create. "What happens now?" Clara asked, watching as reality itself seemed to take a deep breath and relax. Martinez turned to face the assembled fleet commanders, her expression both triumphant and humbled. "Now we build something that's never existed before. A civilization that embraces both chaos and order, that learns from the past while constantly evolving toward the future." The Genesis Council would be reformed, not as a guardian of stagnant tradition, but as a crucible of controlled innovation. Human unpredictability would mix with council wisdom, creating technologies and societies that neither could have achieved alone. "We didn't just save civilization," Martines declared to the fleet. "We've freed it." The precursors tried to write the end of the story, We showed them it was just the beginning. As the hybrid fleet prepared to return home, carrying news of their victory, the universe around them felt different. The rigid patterns that had dominated for millions of years had been replaced by something more fluid, more alive. The mathematical language of reality itself had been enriched with new vocabulary. Human words like perhaps and maybe, and why not. And somewhere in the quantum fabric of space-time, the dispersed consciousness of the precursors watched with newfound curiosity as their creation began to truly create. The age of predetermined paths was over. The era of infinite possibility had begun. And humanity, the cosmic aberration that had dared to question the mathematical certainties of gods, stood ready to help guide the galaxy into its new dawn. Not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as innovators. Because that's what humans do best. They imagine impossible things, and then they make them possible.